We know property is probably the most valuable asset families will ever own. Many jointly own their homes, but a considerable number also have a home in their sole names.
Then there are parents who jointly buy HDB flats or other units with their children, especially when the kids are not married.
That's why it's prudent to know how the law governs real estate ownership, especially in cases involving legacy and property transfers. It's something Invest editor Tan Wee Boon wrote about this past weekend.
So let's talk about some circumstances of property ownership with him. Wee Boon, so I live with my mother and older brother who are joint owners of our house. Now, when my mom passes away and the three of us are still living together, what are my options?
Okay, in Singapore, property transactions are governed by the Land Titles Act. So in cases of joint property ownership, the surviving owner will become the sole owner when the other owner passes on. So in this case, if a parent and son are the joint owners, the son will become the sole owner after the parent passes on. So in your case, a prudent way to handle this matter is to have a family discussion when everyone is still around. So if your mom's intention is to also include you in the home, the best way is to put your name in as a joint owner too. There will be some stamp duty payable, but it is still worth doing so to protect your interest in the home. So what this means is that eventually you and your brother will become the joint owners of the home. Otherwise, you may well end up as the only person who does not have a home later on.
Well, Wee Boon, here's another scenario. Let's say my husband and I own our flat and I will my share to charity. So if my husband still wants to live in that house, what does he need to do?
Again, this is why many people get caught. In a joint ownership, you cannot just will away your share of the property. The only way you can do that is to break up the shares of the ownership by making an application under the Land Titles Act. Unless you do that, when you are gone, your husband will just become the sole owner of the property. Your half cannot be willed away unless you apply to break the property into a 50-50 share. And to do that, you will also need his consent. If one party disagrees, that's when the fight starts. This is why I said in my feature that it is paramount for families to make plans well ahead to avoid unnecessary dispute, which can actually be avoided in most cases. So in the case of charities, I strongly urge people to try to do it when they're still alive rather than wait until they are gone. In this case, you may will your half away to charity, but it will not happen unless you outlive your husband, which means that you will also get his half too. So if the idea is to do charity, do it now rather than wait for years for something that may or may not happen, as this depends really on who is the last person standing.
And Wee Boon, so we've just discussed two hypothetical scenarios. They could be quite common, but what are other situations that would cause contention?
Frankly, if you don't make any plans at all, everything can and will be contentious. Not just properties, people also fight over monies in bank accounts. One common thing that parents like to do is this. If they have a property, they may like to pass it on to their kids in equal shares. So assuming you have 4 kids, you think everybody will be happy to own a quarter share of the house? It means that no one gets to have a say unless, if everyone is close, this is a fight waiting to happen. After all, you cannot sell a quarter of a share in an open market and you are basically stuck unless your sibling buy the share from you. People also forget that in Singapore, we have this word that is dreaded by property owners, and that is ABSD, the additional stamp duty for second property, which is 12% right now. So even if your siblings want to buy your quarter share, they also have to pay this 12% if they already own properties. This is why in such cases, a better alternative is perhaps to sell the house and divide the proceeds equally, which may be more useful. After all, no one will be unhappy to receive money, right?
Well, thanks as always, Wee Boon. Good tips for all. That was our Invest editor, Tan Wee Boon, and you can read his feature at straitstimes.com, but you have to be a subscriber.